we want to introduce to you Congressman David Schweikert, who's joining us today. We welcome you to our podcast, our streaming show.
I'm happy to be here. Do you think I should get an easier last name?
Schweikert. Say it 10 times.
Schweikert.
It's like the running joke when I first ran, and the poor printer looked at me and said, "I can't fit your name on the sign."
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so you've decided to make, we want to talk about all the big issues in D.C. as well, but you've decided to make, I guess you could say, a career change. Why?
It's actually probably three very simple things. You're not allowed to strangle the people you work with. And look, Congress is just infuriating. God didn't give me a lot of talents, but one is I'm pretty good at math, and I'm probably an expert on the budget. And you're trying to make things happen. And you get promise after promise after promise after promise, and then they hide from you when it's time to do hard things. And have you ever grown to hit a moment where you start to realize, I don't think I can save Congress, but I can save Arizona. And then there's other personal things. I have a 3-year-old and 10-year-old, and a wife is exactly my age. I love my state. I love my home. I like my kids. Love my wife.
All the time? All the time.
Oh, I had no idea they were so loud, though.
There you go.
Yeah,
I
right?
had no idea.
Grandfather of
young.
8.
They keep you
Well,
young.
you had and exhausted. And my ears are still echoing from this morning because they decided to have a sing-off. Trust me, Kid Pop could be the messenger of the devil, I swear. So, look, in some ways, I'm surprised I survived this long in Congress. But what happens in Washington, in some ways, it's not a meritocracy. It's often how long you serve, you battle your way up. So now I have a couple chairmanships. I chair the Joint Economic Committee. I chair Oversight and Ways and Means. And I can stop things. I can stop bad things. But I think I can do much more good for my brothers and sisters being here in Arizona.
You said something that you didn't think you could save Congress or help, but you could save Arizona. What does that mean for the future of our leadership in D.C.? I think
that's a brilliant question.
I think there's so much, and we watched it through this government shutdown, so much back and forth and arguing. And I think for a lot of people around the country, that's what we want to see, people working together, even though we may not agree with everybody. Working together.
It's so much worse than that. Look, what happens when you have arguments, which is the way the system's supposed to work,
right? And
people are just making stuff up. This side makes the facts up, this side makes their facts up, so they're not facts at all. Think about this. I think Friday was either the 14th or 15th time so far this year that we've censured someone. Or tried to bring it to the vote. It's become a clown show. And my personal theory is part of it is, everyone needs to be a YouTube or media star. So I need things that are good dopamine hits. But you don't get rewarded for doing hard work, complex policy. And I hope we'll touch on it, but the United States is in a real financial bind. We, over the last 12 months, borrow about $71,000 a second. But so far this fiscal year, we're only about 55 days into this fiscal year, we're borrowing probably about $150,000 a second. Wow. So that means we will click off from October 1st to maybe just before Christmas, another $1 trillion in borrowing. And that borrowing is driven by interest, all these bonds from years ago when interest rates were so low, and demographics. And that's the thing that is really uncomfortable to talk about. But we have so few children. Remember, we have fewer 18-year-olds today than we had 20 years ago.
Sure, yeah.
And next year it gets worse, and the year after that it gets worse. And lots of us who are baby boomers. And the math on covering the interest on 38 trillion, soon to be 39 trillion, covering healthcare and the benefits. There's ways to make this work. There's things the state is going to have to do, and that's what I'm one of the reasons for running for governor. But there's so many things Congress needs to do, and the unwillingness to even talk about the truth and the math.
Well, you mentioned healthcare. How do you solve it? I mean, people are right now facing the prospect, if they have any connection to the ACA, to Obamacare, of possibly doubling or even higher. What's the solution that you see, both nationally and here in Arizona?
First, let's walk through some of the ACA. ACA, most people think of it as Obamacare, but the ACA covers 7% of the population. It's only 7%. What's being debated is the subsidies that are on top of the subsidies. So these were the bonus subsidies from COVID that actually only cover a fraction of that 7%. But this was for people who are much higher income. But it turns out only about a third of those subsidies actually go to help people actually acquire their health care. A bunch of it disappears in either the insurance company, because remember, these subsidies don't go to you. They actually go to the insurance company. Or we found this crazy thing that about 28% of the population in that enhanced subsidies, as they call it, so the subsidies on the subsidies, don't even know they have insurance or have never used their insurance. So now we're coming up with all these people getting prosecuted for fraud where they signed up folks. Okay, that's the ACA stuff.
Yeah.
Here's my number one argument, and for some reason this seems to be hard for folks. We've turned healthcare into financing. Obamacare, the Republican alternative, Medicare for all, are financing legislation. It's who gets to pay and who gets subsidized. Our fixation with my economists, I now have 5 or 6 PhD economists. A couple of them specialize in healthcare because I also chair the Joint Economic Committee. And we've been building models of what you can do to make healthcare more affordable, not through subsidies, but through technology. When 47% of U.S. healthcare is estimated to be associated with obesity, why wouldn't we help our brothers and sisters get healthier? When 33% of U.S. healthcare spending is just diabetes, why wouldn't we help our brothers and sisters take that on, and particularly pre-diabetic populations? And it turns out if you could take a sliver of that money and use it in ways to lower the actual cost of a service of being healthy.
What do you mean by that?
If we estimate that last year, 25 to $35 billion was spent just in duplicative MRIs, X-rays, CTs, ultrasounds.
Right.
So you get your, he's a big skier, he busts up his knee, gets an ultrasound or MRI in Flagstaff, comes here a couple days later, gets it again.
Sounds like my life story up at Sunrise. But go ahead with your, for instance.
But the simple technology of take that ultrasound or take that MRI and just attach it to this, and so it's portable with you. The problem is, as soon as you offer a piece of legislation saying, let's get rid of duplicative scans, that's $350 billion over 10 years. It's a lot of money.
So you have the lobbyists for those companies.
Exactly. You are so good.
And then they take over, they try to lobby some of the lawmakers, right?
Do you want to run for Congress? Because you already got to the punchline before most people
think about it. Okay, we're doing just fine here on the streaming
But
show.
It's true. And what happens is, the next moment you have these people showing up at your office pissed at you. Sorry for my language.
And they sometimes fundraise for some of these leaders around the,
Either that or a good example. So I've worked on telehealth since I got to Congress.
I actually really like that, so thank you.
But I got the crap kicked out of me. You may not remember, but they were on your television station a few years ago, just before COVID. David Schweikert's trying to get between you and your doctor-patient relationship. And it turns out it wasn't healthcare running the ads trying to stop telehealth. It wasn't doctors. It was real estate. It was the real estate groups that had bought the urgent care centers, the emergency room practices, the finance groups that had bought the emergency room doctors that were fearful if you used telehealth, there would be fewer people walking in the door. And there's back to healthcare. We need the people I work with in Washington to grow a spine, toughen up, tell the truth on how much money is going to things that have nothing to do with you being healthy. It has to do with the building, the air conditioning, the parking lot, the real estate. When All right, last example. Technology exists today. It's called a breath biopsy. Looks like a big kazoo. It's a flu kazoo. You can blow into it.
Mm-hmm.
And within a couple moments, it can bounce off your medical records on your phone to know if you're allergic to any particular pharmaceutical.
Oh, wow.
And it says, all right, you actually have this type of bacteria.
Yeah.
We're going to order your antibiotics or your antivirals or whatever is required. And it will be delivered by lift to your house in 3 hours. That type of technology is illegal because it would be the algorithm, the AI prescribing, how we reimburse it in Washington. The very technology where we could crash the price of healthcare. And that's actually one of my passions for running for governor, is lots of that. There's this concept of building what you call a sandbox, where things, innovations are allowed to be tried at the state level.
I would love to hear, and I know we're coming up on a break right now, but how you're looking at possibly implementing some of these things at the state level. I just used telehealth last night with my son. He has strep throat. And I just shot the doctor a couple of pictures, and she prescribed him antibiotics. It was 7:00 at night. So I think it's a really important topic for Arizonans. We have some questions in the chat also. David, he said, "Don't call me Congressman, call me David."
Now, how old is your little person?
He's 16. He's tall.
So he's not a little
and
person.
He's 6 feet
So
tall.
I go through this with my 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Try getting a pediatric appointment.
It's so hard.
And so, look.
We'll chat about it after a quick break.
We've
got
got
to
a
run
break. In fact, we do a thing called the mystery cam right here. Look at that. Now, I don't think that's Boston, but it says they got the Boston store. You can give us your guesses. We're back with Congressman David Schweikert in 2 minutes on Fox 10 Talks.
Me too. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. You're looking live at the Mystery Camera this morning on your Monday of Thanksgiving week. And we are grateful for all of you for hanging with us and joining us and being a Fox 10 talker. And we love seeing you with your T-shirts and all kinds of fun stuff. Ron, what are your thoughts on this location?
I like Halakita. She says it's somewhere in Pennsylvania looking out over Lake Erie. That's very specific. I've never been to Erie, PA.
No.
But I was in Cleveland not too long ago, so I think I'm going to go with her.
What's that? Is that like a ride down at the end? Do you see that, Ron?
I hope so. I hope it is, Celeste. I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
Their version of the Space Needle, I guess.
Okay, so I'm going to go Maryland.
Okay, we got a Maryland and a Pennsylvania, and ladies and gentlemen, the answer is
Erie, PA.
It is.
Yay!
Thank you to Halakita.
Have you been to Erie, PA?
We actually this summer held a Ways and Means hearing there to talk about enterprise zones and trying to, how do you reindustrialize the country? There's parts of the city that are actually amazing.
Yeah.
Who came up with that name, Ways and Means?
Yeah.
It's actually functioning in the U.S. Constitution. Ways and Means Committee is the only. Look, we have responsibility for trade, taxes, Medicare, which
it's actually very important. Yeah.
Well, that's what we tell ourselves.
Celeste, I thought you were going to say who came up with that name, Erie.
Oh, that too.
Pennsylvania.
Ron's like, I have the answer.
Well, the question, of course, that we've got to answer because we've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left with you is. People are going to be within a matter of months deciding in the primary why you over two also well-established Republican names, talking about Andy Biggs and, of course, Karen Taylor Robson.
Fair question. And look, I've known both of them most of my life. It's a combination of a couple of things. If you take a look, I'm a conservative. I'm fixated on keeping taxes low, making Arizona as affordable as possible, dealing with the truth and the reality of how do you protect our border. And you see the amazing success that's happened so far this year, but also innovation, the things that raise wages. If you're in this neighborhood, or even just our entire county, if you don't make about 28% more today than you did a few years ago, you're poor. Our wage growth has flatlined, yet we were the epicenter of inflation. Yeah. So you want to know why people are cranky? It's because they're poor. I actually believe a conservative, free market, innovative approach is actually what we were as a state for years, and we seem to have lost that vision.
But that sounds like the other two candidates, at least on the Republican side.
No, I disagree. It doesn't. I don't live in a world of resentments, of basically running because I harbor certain grievances. And the fact of the matter is I also have the history Go take a look. The legislation I've introduced, the legislation I've been successful getting passed, there's almost no one in Congress. It's gotten more pro-growth success through Congress in the last decade than I have.
You know, I just want to mention, I know we have to wrap here soon, but you served in congressional district, was it 3, 5?
No, I've been in 6, 5, 1 because of redistricting and movement. Right. I served in the state legislature when I was a child for 2 terms. I was the county treasurer, so I managed the money.
You went to Arizona State, W.P. Carey School, yes?
Yes, and I did my MBA there also.
What is it that you love about Arizona?
In many ways, it's more than just the beauty. There's a certain sense of freedom here. You have people that have chosen to live here from all over the country, all over the world. And I think that spirit makes Arizonans different than almost any other place in the country.
Okay, so affordability, you touched on it. Let's get a couple of concrete proposals from you here in the next minute and a half that we have until we have to say goodbye.
First off, if you're someone that listens to some of the politicians say, we're going to make prices go down, they're lying to you. The economics don't work that way. What you have to do is have wages go up. If you want affordability, let's talk in housing. There's 2 primary components in housing. It's availability, it's housing stock, and it's wage growth. We're failing on both of those. And it doesn't need to be that way. Just think of it. It was only a few years ago. Arizona was a place where you could start a family. You could move. Your kids would stay. You know, how many of your grandkids are choosing to stay here in Arizona because they can afford a house, they can see their wages going up, they can afford that family?
Well, they're all 11 and younger. So
all right, so we still have a ways to go.
But still, housing is a huge issue.
And yet, I hear some of the absurd proposals of, we're going to subsidize it more. We're going to, have government do this. There's experiments that have gone on all over the country where you deal with the bureaucracy, particularly our city bureaucracies, when, sometimes it takes a couple of years to be able to get the entitlements, the permitting. Just the cost of doing that is structured in those prices of the housing. Our state trust land that's right in the urban area where we're doing leapfrog development. That's absurd. And then the other things is the types of companies, the jobs, the entrepreneurship you bring into this community is actually how you get wage growth back alive again.
And then there needs to be a little bit more thought process, too, on the housing crisis. Like with the middle housing law, I think there wasn't enough work being done on the back end with that was signed into the state legislature.
Part of it was, it was well-intended, but we actually can study around the country where there's been successes and when there's been a lot of failures.
Yes,
well, before we say our goodbyes, tell us one thing about you, about your life, your hobbies, et cetera, that might surprise us a little bit.
My hobby is welding.
Wow.
There you go.
I have
what type of things are you welding?
No. Sure. If you ever drive by my house, which don't do it too much, it creeps up my little girl. But I have lots of metal gates and these things.
And you built them all.
Yeah, I didn't say I'm good at it, but I love doing it.
Honey, why doesn't this gate shut? It does not lock.
But think about it. If you do what I do, you live a fairly intense life because being on Ways and Means, chairing the Joint Economic Committee, you got to come home to unwind. I love my kids. I love taking my kids hiking, but sometimes Daddy just needs to be in the garage welding up another gate.
Yeah.
All right. Congressman David Schweikert, it's been great having you here.
Thank you for
having me.
And we're entering the political season, so I'm sure we'll be in touch.
I look forward to it.
Thank
you for coming in.